Hey everybody, welcome back to the Disreputable podcast. Man, I don't know what episode we're on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're just rolling through them, aren't we?
Yeah, I would assume we're 5 or 6 in, but
Season 3.
Season 3,
yeah,
for sure that. But thank you to everybody that's listening and watching and sharing.
Sharing, especially people that listen and share, right?
Yeah, our greatest one thus far is commitment issues.
Well, most popular one. I don't know if it's the greatest one. We probably
point.
did better ones, but
yeah, the people
apparently
seem to
the
like
people
it.
that watch this podcast
Yeah.
have commitment issues. That's what I would say.
So.
Or they know people that do.
Yeah, but once again, you can always like, subscribe, share, let a friend know, and thank you for your feedback. I know you have received some feedback of people just saying thank you guys for doing it again.
And we love being together and talking about what matters.
Yeah, so
a lot of people talking,
right?
But not a lot of people talking about what gets us ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Today we're going to talk about wealth. Okay, philosophies of wealth, ideas of wealth, the difference in wealth and rich, if there is a difference. Where does wealth come from? Just money in general. Is it just about money? All sorts of questions that people may have, that people are aspiring. I know this is a topic that you feel like you have a purpose to educate people in certain areas about. I know you've helped me in a lot of areas, so felt like it would be great to just have a dialogue about this topic. So just to open it up off the top, and we can go in different directions. When we say wealth, what would you say wealth is to you?
Well, wealth to me is not an amount.
Okay.
It's a state where you feel free enough to do what you want to do, right? So you don't have to be a billionaire to be wealthy.
Right.
But if you can take the leash off, using a metaphor of being a dog on a leash, if you could take the leash off and run free, then you're wealthy.
Yeah.
And that amount is probably different for everybody, because some people can be content in a 1,000-foot house. Some people could be content in a trailer. And that's the kind of freedom they're looking for, because they can hitch the trailer up to a truck and go, you know, and be on the road and see the world.
So would you say wealth is freedom?
Wealth is enough money to be free.
Wealth has monetary value.
What do you mean?
Well, you just said wealth is enough money to be free.
Yeah, it's gotta be. What holds us back? So when we talk about why it matters to me as a pastor,
for sure,
and why when you say that I have some interest in it, is that when I hear dialogues about racial inequity and whatever, what's that about? It's about money.
Okay.
It's about the fact that people of color feel like nobody's showing them the rules of the game. So some people are getting ahead, and other people don't even know what game we're playing. Right. So this house you're sitting in, we've committed to continually doing gatherings for people of color to teach them the rules of the game.
Right.
Because black and white matter, but green matters more.
Right.
When it comes to freedom.
Sure.
The green being the color of money.
Is there a difference? Because I kind of always grew up not talking about wealth, talking about being rich. Okay? Yeah. Is there a difference in your perspective in being wealthy and being rich? Are they hand in hand?
Yeah.
Do they go on the same?
I think they're synonyms that a lot of people use them interchangeably. What I think of as rich is, people that have an expensive car or whatever. And that, to me, you can be a high wage earner. You can make $300,000 a year, but still be broke.
Sure.
You don't have wealth because your house payment, your car payment are taking all of your income. So I'm not talking about having a large income. That's why I say the freedom.
Okay.
Wealth is where you've got more than enough. You have a car payment or a house payment, but it doesn't consume your money.
Yeah.
You have more than enough. Enough for you, enough for philanthropy, charity, enough to go where you want to go when you want to go.
What do you think that some of the misconceptions about wealth or money is?
Well, I mean, I'd ask you the same question, but I mean, the one that comes to my mind in my world, because I'm a person of faith, one of the major misconceptions is that if you're really a holy person, you don't care about wealth.
Okay, this is good because I wanted to talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
so if you're a pastor, you should just be in poverty.
Yeah.
What is
I guess
that
I
about?
guess that's America's Quaker. We come from Quakers, you know.
Okay, yeah.
America's founded by some pretty a philosophy, a religious philosophy that said we don't need this world, so we're gonna just be humble people and plain clothes and plain. And I think we're still growing out of that holiness movement. Holiness means I detach from everything in this world.
Right.
But it's not congruent, Brandon, because every time you go to church, they go, give.
Yeah.
Give to because there's all these needs. So there's needs on one side and there's people on the other side, and only people who have more. And I've got a new book coming out called More.
Yeah.
We're going to give away free copies Easter weekend.
Yep.
I hope people come on Easter because I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. But the premise is only people who have more than enough can do charity.
Right.
Absolutely. I've been in this work for a long time. The only people who've helped me in that regard are people who had more than they needed.
So the people then that would be resentful of people who have more than enough or more are the people that feel like they were not given opportunity or education.
People that feel like they don't. Again, this is why I'm all about trying to teach people that I know and love the rules of this game.
Right.
Because it took a few people to teach me how it worked, and then once the light bulb comes on, because I think the resentment comes from clearly there was a game being played here, and I'm not winning.
Right.
But nobody's explaining the rules to me, and it's not impossible to build wealth, especially in America. People outside of America can kind of sometimes have more clarity about it because they look over there and go, if I can get over there, anything's possible.
Right.
But the people inside, I think we're just too close to it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you is the idea, are you becoming more comfortable with the idea of wealth? And if so, what's made you more comfortable?
Am I becoming more comfortable? Yeah, I feel like I've always been comfortable. I just don't think I knew the rules of how to play the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it was like watching it on TV. If we're talking about a game, it was like being around it. It was like, you know, you're just on the outskirts and you love it, and you're like, man, I'm gonna be able to get there one day. I can see it.
Right.
But right now, I'm learning the rules of how to play it. You know.
Right.
And I think, you know, you said a minute ago, and it made me think. I think, unfortunately, there's not enough education in school that teaches people how to play the game, if you will.
Well, most of the teachers are broke.
I never was taught how to budget.
Right.
I mean, these are just basic principles that you know. I mean, outside of my parents.
Yeah.
But in school,
Yeah.
you know, how to do a savings account. What's the purpose of just all sorts of stuff, investments, just you name it.
So you see the outcome of what happens for a lot of people, and maybe you were like this, is they see the outcomes of wealth, like a nice car or whatever.
Absolutely.
Then they take credit.
Yep.
And they run up a credit card to have the outcomes without learning the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
It's a little bit like in the ministry. You could appreciate this metaphor. Maybe it's not meaningful to our viewer, our one viewer. But in the ministry, when you observe the ministry, you say the ministry is preaching.
Okay.
But now that you're in the ministry,
oh yeah, totally.
You realize preaching is like 5% of the thing.
Yeah.
But it's all anybody sees.
Right.
Even though that's 1 hour of one day
Yeah.
in the ministry. And that's the way it is with money. People see a Lambo or a Porsche or a Maserati and they go, wealth? No, well, not really. Those are just outcomes.
Right. Because anyone could charge it.
Yeah,
Lease
yeah.
it.
There are lots of
Not afford it.
high-income people
Right.
that even they don't understand because they have a talent. It takes three things to have some wealth, right? You need to be able to build something. So you could be a doctor, and you've learned a specific skill. You have some kind of skill.
Right.
Or you could be a layout person or a video person or a singer or whatever. That person can leverage their skill into a high wage and still not understand the game. Therefore, you're a great football player, but after you retire, you're broke.
You have nothing. Yeah.
Right? That happens all the time.
Right.
The percentages of people in the NFL and NBA that go bankrupt are astronomical because they only had one of the three traits. Then you have to have this curiosity about life and about learning about how to use things. So Elon Musk isn't just a smart programmer. He wants to learn, and he's asking questions and he's figuring out the system, and he doesn't just make cars.
Right.
He's figuring out the game.
Yeah.
And then character is that thing where you have that structure on the inside of your head and your heart so that you don't blow your money on cocaine.
For sure.
Or you have some kind of philosophy that says, I can handle this.
So what are the misconceptions then as people progress in life, become more wealthy, get a better job? Is the misconception to hold on to it? Is it okay, I'm getting more, so I hold on to more? Because there's a few backwards thinkings that I think I was kind of taught. I don't know where I picked it up on, but it was like save, 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 right?
Yeah.
It was like get some, put away, instead of get some, invest to get more to bring in to then put to buy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there was that, and I just think, man, I wonder how many more misconceptions are there out there that people are doing right now?
I'm sure there's a bunch of them.
You know?
The problem with I believe in saving because you have to have a little something here, right?
For sure.
But money is a seed,
Right.
and seeds don't do what they're born to do if they're not in the ground. So there are lots of people that don't have a lot of cash because all their seed is in the ground. It's growing. They own apartment buildings or they have stocks. So they don't have cash. They might be driving a Toyota Camry and not a Lambo. But if they cashed in all their seed, they'd have a Lambo or 8.
Yeah.
So I think that's a misconception that the way to build wealth is not to plant it, but you just end up with more seed and not a bigger harvest. If I take one apple seed and I put it in the ground and get another tree, now I've got more seeds. Now at the end of the day, if I don't plant it, I still haven't lost my seed yet.
Yeah.
But you haven't used your seed yet either.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like showing up to a farm and the guy's just ranting and raving that he has all the seed
got
in the
a bag of seed. And that's kind of not the point.
Right.
The point is apples.
Yeah.
So you have to get comfortable with saying, money isn't good in my pocket or in my bank. Especially now, Brandon, because with interest rates so low, people who have money in the bank are losing money. People who have money in houses are making money. People who have money in the stock market are making money. The only people losing money are the people that never invest it.
And is that because people have low risk, or they just...
Yeah, sometimes it's your season in life. As you get older, you want to risk less because you have less time to recover, But so it can be season, but a lot of it's temperament or fear. Fear keeps you from wealth. So you don't do stuff.
Yeah.
Wealthy people have a bias toward action.
Okay.
They try things.
And if it doesn't work, you try something else.
Try something else.
Yeah. You said to me a few years ago, I don't necessarily remember when or what it was about, and it resonated with me because there's this thought pattern that's like debt free, debt free, debt free, debt free. There's good debt, and then there's bad debt.
Right.
Right. Bad debt is, you know,
Consumer debt.
yeah. But there is a good type of debt
Right.
for people to have.
Yeah, that's the kind of debt that where something is paying you.
So it's a debt that you have,
Right.
but it's bringing in income.
Yeah. So if I go into debt $4 million to buy an apartment building, but the rents from those apartment building, I'm not only am I paying the payment, but I get another $15,000 a month.
Right.
Who's winning?
Yeah.
The debt is a small part of a transaction.
Yeah.
Now, if I take a credit card, that's consumer debt. And I can pay $200 on a credit card for a meal.
Right.
But if I don't pay it off, I didn't pay $200. I paid $400.
Sure.
And I'm paying it every month. And because I don't pay it off, I end up paying $1,000 for a $200 meal.
Right. Right. Yeah. Totally.
I had a mentor say to me years ago, Dean, if it costs more than $200 and you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. So if you don't have cash to go out to dinner for $200, you can't afford to pay for dinner. Because the credit card has just turned it from $200 to $400, and from $400 to $600, and $600 to $1,200. Yeah. So you want to avoid consumer debt. Debt is this. Years ago, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've probably given away 100 copies. I'm sure I gave you a copy, but it said that everything that pays you is an asset. Everything that you pay is a liability. So my house, in my mind, is not an asset because I have to pay it. I got to pay it. I have a big payment here. But the apartment building I own down the street is an asset because it's paying for me. Not only is it paying for me, paying me every month, the money I make from it pays for this house.
Right.
So in a way, I don't even make the payment. Other investments make the payment for this house.
Yeah.
And I got to the place where I don't buy anything. I don't buy a car unless I have an investment that makes the payment for the car.
So that's now we're into a philosophy, a way that you think
Philosophy that if I want a Maserati,
Yeah.
and that Maserati payment is $100 a month or whatever it is, then I need an investment that will spin off $100 a month.
In order for you. Yeah.
So that I get momentum, positive momentum.
Right. I would like our fact check guys to check to see if we can get a Maserati for $100 a month. I would be down for that.
Right.
Where did you pick this stuff up, man? Like, where did you?
Little by little. I had a couple of really great mentors.
And is some of it trial and error?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure, for sure.
how much error?
You gotta act. What I said about action, bro. And you and I have had this talk before, and I've said it 100 times. You gotta. You're not gonna make money by thinking about investing.
Yeah.
You gotta do something.
Do you think when you start to invest, there's a lottery ticket mindset that's like, you know, I'm going to hit the jackpot on my first one?
Yeah, I think so.
And not have to keep going, you know?
I mean, that's our society is instant gratification.
Yeah, which is part of the reason why I'm mining for these questions because, you know, I think you and I are probably in different seasons and stages of life, right? And I guarantee you there's a lot of people that are watching and they got $15,000, $20,000 of credit card debt. Right. 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people and they didn't get their packages and the whole thing. Their business is tanking and you have a lot of people that if you're not careful, it's easy to feel like you're drowning.
This is why it matters. This is why I think it's one of the most spiritual in the last season of my life. I've realized that it's one of the most spiritual topics, far from being not spiritual.
Right.
It sets people free because people make all kinds of bad decisions
for sure
because they feel like they're drowning.
Right.
Addiction comes out of feeling like you're drowning. I may as well get hammered because I'm not winning.
Right.
I may as well divorce this guy because he's not. You know, all these poor choices that come out of bad money vibes.
Mm-hmm. How much is it is it mind? Is it thinking when it comes to money?
I don't know. How would you answer that?
Well, I think it's conditioned in some of the way you were raised. I mean,
Yeah.
the way that you were educated, the way that maybe you saw family spending. I mean, back to the cycle of I wasn't given opportunity, I wasn't educated about it. I never saw a way out, so therefore I did X. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that have a bad way of thinking. I also can remember my grandfather was a pastor, and he was he was what I would call a wealthy pastor. He enjoyed his luxuries, and I remember gravitating to that. I liked
Right.
his nice things, and he used to show me, and there was a lot of resentment though from people, and that because of his position, I suppose, and some of it was even within our own family that was like, you know. And so I had to fight the tensions. What I'm saying is I had to fight the tension on one side of my family. It was like, hey, you're going to be prosperous. You're going to do great things. You're going to, you know, you're going to do well for yourself.
Right.
And then in other areas, it was like, no, it's okay to just get by. Mm-hmm. You know, like those people, I must have done something corrupt to get that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is in my own family.
Yeah.
And now my family's blended and all sorts of different things. So this isn't just like mom and dad or
But
whatever.
all of that happens out in a lot of families.
But then you imagine, okay, then you just add that to what's going on around the world and with people in the different. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of it's got to be the way that we think about it.
A lot of it is. In the scripture, so you see seasons. There's God's people in the scripture get warnings about famine.
For sure.
So there are factors outside of whatever Brandon does, and I'll call that famine. You didn't know the downturn was going to happen, neither did anybody else.
Right.
Because we didn't expect the world to shut down. Unprecedented.
Right.
That's
a year ago, by the way.
Yeah, literally.
Within the week.
Right.
Yeah.
So famine happens, but over here you have factors that you can control.
Right.
And that's the way I think about money, the way I
Yes.
plan money, the way I save money, the way I invest money. And you can offset with your thinking and your behaviors the risks of famine. So in the scripture, for instance, God says to Joseph, as he's the prince of Egypt, famine's coming. Start filling the silos. Because one day you won't have anything to put in the silo. So Joseph, for a whole nation, starts a reserve. It doesn't mean they didn't eat then.
Right.
It meant they produced more than enough for famine. And that's what I try to do in my life. I try to produce more than enough. So if the people around you are going, how come Brandon's so obsessed with money and making money and getting out of debt? Well, because Brandon's smart enough to figure out enough isn't going to be enough.
Right.
Because famine is going to show up sometime.
Somewhere.
There's always a season of famine coming.
Right.
You're either in a famine, coming out of a famine, or headed toward a famine.
Yeah.
So I need, during times of seasonable, prosperous times, let's call it. I need to have a little over here. I need to plant more seed here so that I have some seed to put in the silo.
So where does a person, where does one, if you will, where do they start?
Yeah, I mean, I think you start by taking in information about how you can become that kind of a person. Because I think a lot of people, their thinking is the problem.
So just to break that down, so it's surround yourself with people.
This podcast.
Listen to the podcast. Educate yourself.
Step one.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of great people out there that talk about. Dave Ramsey has a point of view. I don't agree with everything Dave says. I guess if Dave ever listened to this podcast, he wouldn't agree with everything I say.
Sure. Yeah.
But he helped me.
Yeah.
He was one of my mentors.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't believe in debt in any form, but and so we disagree on that. But he helped me a lot in my thinking about cash versus
Knowing where your
credit
money
card,
goes.
all of that.
Yeah.
You know, paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
He's great at that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he has a podcast. The guy who did that talks a lot about it. I had a mentor who taught me about the value of homes. One day he pulled the car over and he said, "A house is a box." I've given you this talk 100 times, but you put your money in that box. If you sell that box to get a bigger box, which is what most of us do, you just got to put more money in a bigger box. But if you take the money out of that box, we call that a refi,
yeah.
and buy another box, you get your friend Torrin to put his money in that box. You put your money, now you've got 2 boxes, and you kind of leverage. And he in one talk, he gave me a real estate lesson I've never forgotten.
Yeah.
And I've given it to hundreds of other people and helped them create wealth.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of that, if I may play that, so then you have people that go, yeah, but Dean, there's, but to your,
A lot of buts.
there's risk to anything.
Big buts.
But there would be a big but in any situation, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. There's no guarantees in life.
Absolutely.
But the scripture tells the story, again, not to be a pastor all the time, but scripture tells the story of a man who gave 3 people resources, and the only one who was really condemned is the guy who was too afraid to do something. Some people got a little better return than the others, but the guy who was really slammed, and the master got mad at him, was the guy who said, "Oh, it's too scary. I didn't want to lose it."
Right.
So get out there, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you're gonna win more than you lose.
We'll close in just a minute, but when you said that, it made me think of 2 different types of mindsets that you and I have talked about in the past, and one of it is abundance, and one of it is scarcity.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, the mindset of abundance, having a mindset of more than enough, and then having the mindset of, holding on to, clinging to the last bit of what you have in hopes that...
Yeah. I was raised by a pessimist. And pessimism basically says anything could happen, but the worst is probably going to happen.
Okay.
And that's basically scarcity mentality. It just says there's not enough, so I have to take what I can right now, because there won't be enough for everybody. But God doesn't. When you look around at creation, that doesn't seem to be a problem. Only people think that way.
Right.
You read the paper and you go, there's a population crisis, a population boom. There's not going to be enough room for everybody.
Right.
And then get on a plane and fly over. There's plenty of room.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Plenty of room. They thought the world would be strangling itself by now. There's lots of room. People congregate together. Right. So there's not much room in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Not much room in New York.
Right.
But there's plenty of room.
Yeah.
So just humans create this scarcity. Like, what if it goes away? What if it goes away? That's, in my opinion, there's nothing divine about that thinking. Abundance just says, hey, there's enough for me and there's enough for him. Changes my spirit when I believe that. And because there's enough, I can create more. I can take a little now. If there's scarcity, I have to eat it all right now, because otherwise I'm going to starve. But if there's enough, I can put a little over here and plant that seed. I don't have to eat it.
Yeah.
And I can wait. Let's wait for another harvest. I think this is the danger of life. Is that most of the people that are listening to this podcast grew up around scarcity and they just never got free. A lot of poor people it comes from poor thinking.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that. And I've tried my best to not do this to my kids. But when you just said scarcity mindset is like when you're eating and you just have to eat it all right now.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you sat at a table and you've watched a parent tell that kid,
"No, it's
eat it all. You know, almost to the point of like sick to your stomach.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I understand like you gotta
No, that's right.
be healthy.
You think about the healthiest people you know. There are people who leave stuff on their plate.
Yeah, totally.
But it's poor thinking, and
But it's little habits like that, I guess, is what I'm saying. That
you catch yourself and go, there'll be more cookies.
yeah, exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah,
It's going to be all right.
right. Yeah,
Springtime comes
That's
around
funny, yeah.
every year. So in the middle of December, you go, we're never going to make any money.
right.
This is what I want to say. It's, well, I'd love to leave some hope.
Yeah.
And what I try to plant in you and these other lads here, because I want you to, you're doing very well.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd love for you to be rich beyond your wildest dreams, so you could help as many. You and Reagan have such a big heart.
Yeah, thank you.
I want you to be able to work for free and just go where you want to go and have a beautiful vacation home and travel to see your kids.
Mm-hmm.
But in the middle of December, it's always hard to imagine that April's coming.
Right.
It's like, oh gosh, the snow. I mean, 4 weeks ago, right now it's a beautiful, icy blue sky out the
Yeah,
window.
absolutely.
4 weeks, or maybe less than 4 weeks ago, there was 3 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And you go, it's always going to be snow and no flowers. No, flowers are coming back.
Yeah.
Just keep doing the right stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Grass is going to grow again.
Yeah.
Just got to make it through.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we should do a part 2, part 3, part 4, because there's so much gold in all these stories that you tell. But I don't want to miss not even a shameless plug, a full-on plug.
Yeah.
You're writing.
Yeah.
You have finished your book.
It's called More. Yeah.
And people will be available to get this.
April 3 and 4.
April 3 and
We're going
4.
to give away all weekend.
Okay.
We're going to give away free copies.
Free copy. And
So
then
come.
past April 3rd and 4th, they'll be able to go to your website
Yeah,
and get it
yeah.
on Amazon, all those
Right,
types of
right.
things. Yeah. You have to. If I could say the amount of wisdom that you have given to my family, and then there's so many people around, it's just blessed us all. So I know in a lot of our podcasts it's a dialogue, but man, just your impartation of wisdom and understanding and how to think has just been incredible. So
Thank you, bro.
yeah, man, I appreciate you, and I hope this blessed you. You know, if you're a business owner, or you know you're looking to try to get out of debt in whatever area you may find yourself in, if you ever need help or you want to reach out to either one of us, we'd be happy to help you in any way that we can. I'm assuming you can just do that through the Disreputable podcast links, but if not, you can reach out at info@ourchurch.us. I know that this is not always a religious thing, but we're connected to our church, and that would be a way that you can specifically reach out and have questions, or you know, you need more help. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We love you so much. Have a great day.